Okay, Victor, let's dive in. Thank you for joining me, number one. Firstly, I wanted to ask, with current Australian financial literacy levels, what do you
Yes.
sort of find is the most common mistake that people make when it comes to managing their finances?
Yeah. Very good question. So, in terms of that, I think it's when people get general advice, and general advice is what is Joe Blog doing down the street? And it's like, okay, yes, I'm going to do that as well because it sounds amazing. So, because we are in an environment where there's lots of information, literally, you can type into ChatGPT and get information. So, but how tailored is that for you? So, that's the mistake. Getting good information, but it's irrelevant to your situation.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing about today's society as well with AI and social media. They're dubbed influencers, that they provide such a broad and general, financial advice, or if it is financial advice, if anything, is more information. A lot of it can be misinformation as well.
Mm.
Um, Look, what ideally do people need to start to get some specific financial advice and get a little bit maybe less broad and more tailored?
Yeah. So I think people, you just need to go get advice. It's I always use the analogy of when you have a chest pain. You can type into Google, okay, what's the chest pain? What's going on? But end of the day, if you want to be sure, you need to go see the doctor. The
Yeah.
doctor will then recommend doing scans or tell you exactly what the next step is. So in
Hmm.
terms of getting good advice, you need to see someone. Sometimes we always joke as advisors as well that even advisors, we need objective advice from other advisors as well, because there is that objectivity that comes when you're seeing someone. It's like, well, you shouldn't do this because of this. So
Yeah.
you just need to go to the professional to get that help.
100%. And yeah, there is an emotional bias as well when you're looking at yourself when it comes to your finances or even things like your body image or that
Mm.
sort of stuff. Like even I've heard personal trainers have personal trainers, you know what I mean? So yeah. So like yeah, definitely I think everybody needs a financial planner. And one of the most important aspects I feel a financial planner can help you out with is goal setting. And I wanted to understand, well, how do you go about helping your clients set goals? And I think that's
Yes.
probably the first part of tailoring advice as well as understanding the goals.
Correct, correct. So one of the questions I always ask all my new clients is what is important to them, and this is a very critical question because it tells me more about them and what that goal would be relating to. So most people say family, most people say health. Some people would say, just enjoying life. And then by the time we go down to the goals, I can relate that.
Hmm.
Because if you're really concerned or really, if what's important to you right now is family and kids, and you really want to invest and you want financial freedom, it is tied back to the kids and
Hmm.
it's tied back to the family. So what we do as well is we kind of drill down deeper into that goal
Yeah.
and find the root, I'll say what they're really trying to achieve. And then we reverse engineer, okay, you want financial freedom. What does that look like? Is
Hmm.
that an extra $2,000 in passive income in your pocket? Is that $20,000 in passive income? How long do you want before you actually get to that situation? So a bit of reverse engineering. And few people come in with specific goals. Like someone will come and say, okay, I want this by this time, and this is how I want it done. It's like, okay, perfect. Why do you want that? How is that important to you? Because well, humans, end of the day, and we will stick to a goal if there's a strong emotional connection to that goal. And most people's goals have a strong emotional connection to it. So reverse engineering, understanding the goal, and putting the steps in. That's how we really help clients there.
No, very good. I hear you when I can see that both happening, both people having an emotional goal, like a financial freedom is such a broad goal. And then
Yes,
often I think it's up to the advisor to interpret, well, how do we metricate what financial freedom looks like to you?
correct.
Or even what does living a comfortable life look like to you? So
Mm,
living a comfortable life might be to one person an overseas holiday every year. It might be a domestic holiday to other people every 6 months. Like everybody has their own picture in terms of what a comfortable life looks like. And then
true.
on the other hand as well, there's people that I want to be rich or I want to have $1 million. Well,
Correct.
where did we get that number from?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Oh, $1 million will enable me to, send my kids to school and that's,
yeah,
oh, okay.
exactly.
I understand where your goals are coming from now. So
Yeah.
no, it's interesting to hear. I wanted to understand, well, how does a financial plan meet those goals, and how important is having a financial plan?
Yes. So the how financial plan helps you meet those goals is literally just putting the step-by-step process as to how we get there. Okay, you want $1 million in 5 years' time. What do we need to do to get there? What do we need to save? What exactly are the types of investments we should put in? So we'll put a step-by-step process for you to actually get to that goal. Not many people can do that because one, there's that emotional attachment to how it should be done. There is also the misinformation as to how it should be done. So that's why seeing a professional like myself helps you get there, because look, this is something we've studied, this is something we help people with on a daily basis. So we know what are the right steps. Sometimes I always joke with my clients as well that I can see a future, because and the reason around that is because look, I sit down with a 20-year-old, I sit down with a 30-year-old, I sit down with a 50-year-old, I sit down with a 70-year-old. So I kind of know what are the general things you will go through at that point in time. And yes, they might not be relevant, but me as the advisor, we need to plan for that to ensure, you're not being put in a worse situation.
Yeah. And I think that's some of the benefit as well of having a financial plan and going to see a financial advisor as well. Is you have such a broad spectrum of experience when it comes to finances as well. And you've seen all the stages because you've dealt with all those clientele as well. So having that experience behind you as well can give you the ability to almost forecast and fortune tell, like you said. Yeah. So, and in addition, I feel as well is that's the missing piece, interpreting those emotions and then putting a metric in place and tailoring steps in place. What goes into some of the research and some of the advice that you put into a financial plan?
Yeah, so these days we use technology to our advantage. Having a software that shows you comparison amongst all the superannuation accounts, to me that's just amazing. You as an individual don't have that. Why should you be paying for a tool that looks at across superannuation accounts for you? You go see a professional that can help you do that. Relating it to the medical field is almost like having an X-ray machine in your house.
Yeah.
You don't need that. You just go see the professional to actually help you put that in place. So we use technology to actually get us to where we need, and we also really understand how the markets have done, what's going on, how to value investments, and we can really understand when there's an emotional goal versus, okay, you actually need this. Because sometimes I sit down with clients and then we drill down into the goal and they're like, I actually don't want that. I've kind of heard that from my parents. I've heard that from friends, but I don't want that goal. I actually want this.
Yeah.
Okay. And that really helps as well.
Does that help as well when you're looking to prioritize goals as well? Because I'd imagine that in some circumstances you can meet these 3 but not 4, or how do you sort of go about prioritizing those?
Yes. So sometimes some goals are conflicting, and it's just human nature. Or I'll say it's just life.
Yeah.
For example, you might want financial freedom, but you might want to send your kids to private school. Those are 2 contradicting goals.
Yeah.
Because which one do you want first? Which one is more important? And that's where we come in as well, to really understand, okay, well, why do you want to send your kids to private school?
Yeah.
How does that actually play a role for you and financial freedom? Is time with your kids more important than actually sending them to private school? And that's where people start thinking, well, okay, I've never thought about it that way. And we then help them prioritize, okay, saying, okay, well, for you, Mr. Joe, you want your kids to go to private school for X reasons. But for you, Mr. James, you want financial freedom. All of a sudden, same goals, different priorities, different strategies is needed. So you need someone that's objective just to help you navigate that goal prioritization.
Understood. Yeah, very good. Look, bringing it back to some sort of contemporary issues that families are facing, I think with cost of living, inflation rising, and higher interest rates, I like to say, what sort of tweaks, if any, do people typically make, or do you rather make, to financial plans to cater for those scenarios, or more modern day scenarios that we're facing at the moment?
Correct. Yeah. So in terms of that, usually it comes down to, and I know people have heard this several times, spending less.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So spending less money or making a little bit more money. And for most people, that doesn't come easy, because to make more money, if you're on PAYG, is like, well, okay, how do you do that? You earn a salary. That salary is almost fixed for a certain period of time. However, what we then do with clients is look at what we can do now, because there's some levers you can pull that are less disruptive than other levers. I'd say, for example, if you're used to having 2 nice dinners every week, you might pull that back to 1. But if you're not having any dinners before now, it's like, well, things like, should you rent, should you buy, should you move suburb? Those are actually big levers that, it's very disruptive. So it's pulling the smaller levers and then making a decision as to, okay, we then have to pull the bigger levers. But it all comes down to, saving a little bit more or spending a little bit less. But the biggest item for most people right now is just in terms of either you're renting or mortgage rates have gone up. That's what's most of the people going through. On the other end of retirement, they're actually loving it because they paid off the home and, they're getting high interest on your earnings. So different people have different things they're going through now. But biggest one is how can they reduce that living expense where you live.
Yeah. Look, definitely 2 options, either make more money or spend less. I feel that, especially in this current day, making more money, I often say $1 earned is only roughly 70 cents in your pocket after tax. Yeah. Whereas if you save $1, that's a whole dollar in your pocket. So I use the example, the other day I spent 15 minutes on the phone to my insurance company to get a lower premium. I think I ended up with $100. Okay. So that's a $400 hour. So it's a $100 15 minutes sort of thing. So I was getting paid $400 an hour for that 15 minutes. You know what I mean? So I often think, if you can save $1, that's a whole dollar. But if you can earn another $1, well, that's really only about 70, 75 cents, depending on what your income tax rate is in your pocket. So I feel that's probably one of the biggest levers that people will need to become adjusted to.
Yeah. Now, and you also mentioned a good point there because, $1, as you said, $1 saved is more than $1 earned. And that really applies to several things as well, in terms of even when you look at, when you're saving taxes or when you're making a decision to save taxes, is it a tax offset? Is it a tax deduction? All those really are important. And that's where we come in as well, just to really guide clients that, well, yes, putting money into super is great. It gives you a tax deduction. However, do you need that? Should we actually be doing that? So all that. $1 matters and differs from where you spend it or where you earn it and how you use it. So.
Yeah, and I think taxes are big. People are looking at taxes, and I know currently the stage 3 tax cuts have been announced and they impact people differently. But what, if any, it gets taken into account when you look at taxes and how people can sort of save money as well?
Yeah, perfect. One of the things people really come to me about is like, okay, Victor, I don't want to pay too much taxes. I'm like, okay, perfect, we can. The thing with financial planning, it's planning. We can put plans in place so you don't pay taxes in the future. There are very few things we can do with the tax deduction straight away. That's why I say the accountant comes in. You want to speak to your accountant and ensure you're claiming all you can. But if we put good plans in place, you find out that you're in a situation where in 2-5 years down the track, you're paying a lot less taxes than you would have been paying if we didn't do things like that. So I think the key thing there is the planning. We can put plans in place to help you save lots of tax dollars in the future.
Yeah, okay. And there must be some sort of trade-off as well with having a low tax strategy versus other strategies that might save on their expenses or give them the ability to earn more money down the track. How does that sort of get taken into account? I suppose you'd model alternate strategies and show the differences?
Correct. Yeah. So a few things there in terms of that, the different investments we can put in place that help you save taxes, but there's a certain time frame you need to actually hold those investments for. So going back to goal prioritization is like, okay, what amount of money or cash flow you don't need now that we want to start putting away to save you those tax dollars in 5-10 years time. So we'll start working with that, because I can imagine most people remember 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and it's like, oh, I didn't do this then. Yeah. So don't make the same mistake. So let's put something in place and let's build on that. So in 5-10 years time, you're actually in a lot better situation. So it's just helping them navigate, okay, what we can do now on what we can do and helping you put in place and just keeping you accountable as well to help you get to that ultimate goal. One thing I always tell people as well, saving tax is amazing. Everyone wants to save tax, but if you can meet your goal and you're not too worried about the extra tax you have to save, you're meeting your goal. You can still have a rewarding and fulfilling life because you're just happy you're meeting your goal. You're getting to where you want to get to.
Yeah, and I think that's the point that I'm trying to get at. I think that if it's in your best interest, don't go out of your way because you don't want to pay tax, because you begrudgingly don't want to pay the government for whatever reason. Like I feel that there's a trade-off there sometimes of meeting your goal versus not wanting to pay the government any more money, sort of thing. So
Yes.
there's that sort of bias that comes into play as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think people really need to distinguish tax deduction, tax offsets,
Yeah.
and how it actually plays into the bigger picture. Like tax is just a subset of your whole life.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot can still be done to help you get to where you want to go. And end of the day is one of the things where they say taxes are just part of life. Yes, we can reduce it, we can help, and it's something for people just to be mindful about. One thing I'll say as well. Generally, when clients sit with me, I always say we can reduce the average tax rate, but you might end up paying a higher dollar value. And as an example, you might be paying $30,000 or $50,000 in taxes, okay, and then in 5 years' time you're paying $35,000, but we might have dropped the percentage tax rate. So now that tax rate might have been 25%, but in the future it's 20%, but you're still paying more because you're earning more and you're making more, which is a better outcome
exactly.
than actually, saving taxes and not earning more money.
Yeah, and I think it's those sort of biases and sometimes emotional biases. I see a lot of people that they want to buy property because they've heard about negative gearing and they go out on their own and they buy the wrong property, or they use their former principal residence and because they think negative gearing is the in thing. But ultimately, I feel that they shoot themselves in the foot as a result because they don't do the modeling or the projections and they don't understand the trade-offs.
Yes. And the thing with negative gearing, look, is great. But if you really look at it, negative gearing, you're giving money away.
Yeah.
If you're positively geared, you're keeping a percentage of that money. So at the end of the day, I think, what is the goal? You want to spend more time with the family, financial freedom. You want money in your pocket. You want to be able to pay your kids' education, more money in your pocket. You want to have enough when you retire, more money in your pocket, and then you can decide what to do with it. So it's not all about taxes, but look, it's a huge part.
Yeah, it's again that objective view without any sort of emotional biases. Yeah. So let's say, for example, I'm a member of the audience. I'm listening to this podcast, and I think, wow, I really got to get my act together. I got to build up my financial literacy. What sort of immediate steps can I make to sort of improve my financial literacy?
Yeah, very, very good question. One of the key things with most people is cash flow. Okay, so because with cash flow is usually an emotional part of the financial planning process, because people have built this habit over a long time. So that's the one part where, you really need to zone in. How much are you spending? Okay, because it's not really about how much you're earning, but what you do with the money. Obviously, more money is good, but we've heard stories of celebrities running out of money and then you're earning millions of dollars. So it's a lot easier to spend money and a lot harder to make it.
Yeah.
So understanding your cash flow, where's your money going? Do you need to be spending that kind of money on such a big ticket item? And if not, working to actually control that. Look, we give you tips as to what you should be doing, help put in some automations to actually build that behavior, but it's such a behavioral, emotional thing that it really comes down to you as the individual. Because when we think about investments, super retirement, or other things like that, that's more of a logical thing where we know what to do so we can do that. While as cash flow comes down to the individual.
Yeah. And I feel that as we've sort of progressed from the days of hard currency and balancing checkbooks and that sort of stuff, it's become easier to spend money, like you said.
Yeah.
I feel it's more of a habit as well to manage your cash flow because, like you said, it's easy to spend money, like tap and go. I've even come to the realization that I'm in the habit of buying from the vending machine at the gym.
Okay.
So you know what I've done? I've turned off the tap and go on my phone,
Okay,
and I've
yes.
left my wallet at home,
Yeah.
so that I prevent myself from spending money on the vending machine at the gym. So
Yeah.
I feel it's those habits as well. Are there any other habits that people can get into to?
Yeah, so but funny story. I have this mate. He always because we'll go out for dinner or pay as a group or whatever, and then he always give me cash. And I was like, okay, why are you giving me cash? He never said anything, but obviously myself as an advisor, I know why, and I just tease him because these days, as you said, it's just tap, 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 tap. You just keep tapping. But if you're letting go of the cash and then you're actually spending the cash you have, it's actually a very good habit not to spend too much money because you're physically parting with the money and you need to have the money to part with it. So all of a sudden, you don't really spend more than you can afford. So look, I wouldn't recommend people to go back to cash because it's a little bit hard. But I think one of the things is automating because what happens is we adapt. I'll say most people might have been earning a lot less 5-10 years ago than they are now. So what has really changed is still the same, especially if you haven't had family or nothing has changed in that regard, but you just adapted to more money and it works the opposite way as well. So if you automate things, you might find out that, it's easy for you to spend within your means. And look, if you're not great with your money, stay away from things like credit cards and all that because you're spending money you don't have. And yes, points are great, but what is more important than the points? Your goals, 100%. Your goals are more important than whatever points you're getting. So
yeah, but no, I agree with you on all of that. But especially I feel for today's youth because I remember growing up with a money box and putting money in the money box. And even into my teens, I worked a number of cash jobs as well.
Yeah.
So like even I was only earning maybe $100 a week at the most. Like I had a stack of money and I felt rich. But nowadays, like I feel broke all the time.
Yeah. And I think just going back to the good old days, like you put it in your piggy and when you need money, the smashing the piggy, like it was an emotional thing. It's like, oh, I need this money.
Yeah.
So, and you don't get that these days. It's just too easy to tap on your phone, it's just too easy to spend money.
It was almost heartbreaking to break a money box as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It was
so
detrimental.
There was that emotional.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I know a number of people have somewhat apprehensions towards financial advice.
Yes.
Can you maybe explain to me a little bit about what those apprehensions might be?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things for people is just not understanding what we do. So, the way I actually start my meetings with clients is explain what we do, okay? And what we do is we give you clarity and direction, Yes, we understand the super environment. We understand how investments work. We understand, how logical and emotional behaviors can affect you in making financial decisions. But the benefit is actually sitting down with us and saying, this is going to benefit you because of this, especially by the time we understand the emotional part. So the apprehension by people is not really getting a tangible product.
Yeah.
Okay, it's very, very intangible. But people need to realize that, that clarity and direction is very important because what do you put on the price of someone stopping you from making a bad investment? There isn't a control experiment. There isn't 12 of you where you see, okay, this one made the good decision, this one made the bad decision. So it's very hard for people to fully understand and appreciate that. So, and I think with that, they're kind of concerned about cost as well. I think when people think about advice, they think it's expensive. But the benefits you get from advice fully outweighs the potential cost as well. Our industry has gone through lots of change over the last few years with the Royal Commission and everything. And it's been amazing because it's gotten rid of all the, let's just call them cowboys in the system because now the planners fully understand, the ethical requirements. They fully understand that, look, we won't be here without clients, so your success as a client is actually my success as well. So by the time you explain that to clients, I can really see them just relaxing, like, okay, which is good. So, and one thing I always say is you won't be paying for anything you don't know about beforehand. So it's like, well, why wouldn't you sit down for someone to explain that to you and then go ahead and then you can make a good decision from there. So
I feel that's one of the biggest benefits of financial planning and receiving financial advice as well. sort of advice costs aside, when you receive a financial plan, you know, again, we talked about having somebody with experience guiding you throughout the process, but it gives you that peace of mind and it enables you, well, I call it sleep at night, like pass
Yeah.
the sleep at night test. You're not worried about, oh, where am I going to get a dollar from tomorrow, or
Correct.
how am I going to meet certain costs in the future, or retire and that sort of stuff. So I really feel that financial planning, if anything, is almost a form of stress relief. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Because, as I said, the intangible is the clarity and direction. But what does that give you as a client? That gives you peace of mind. That gives you, knowledge as to what you can achieve or what you cannot achieve. Because struggling to get to somewhere you will not get, to me, you actually put in detriment. You put in, it's a huge detriment to your health, your relationships, and just everything, because you're struggling for this thing that, well, is not achievable based on, the current scenario. So that's something we help clients with. And you're right, it's a sleep at night test, because to some clients, we are like, okay, well, you want to save $2 million, but you're only saving $10,000 a month, and you want $2 million in, say, 2 years, 5 years. It's just not achievable, So how about we turn that down a bit, where less money in less time, or more money over a longer period of time. So all that is, it's not the best news, but you sleep better, because you now know that, okay, well, I'm not going to kill myself and save $15,000 per month to get to that goal, because even with that, you still don't get there.
And we talked about having multiple goals as well, and coming to the realization, well, no, I can't meet my 5, 6 goals. I can meet the first 3 or 4 as well. And I really feel that showing the difference between what you're doing now and what you can do to meet your highest priority goals is part of the biggest difference as well.
Yes. So, and with that, one thing we do is we model out scenarios for people, okay, and we model out different strategies. So, yes, after we've gotten all the goals, let's just say they have 3 goals, we'll model that out to see what that looks like together. Because, the mind cannot function where you're thinking about that, and trying to picture what that looks like. You actually need tools and systems in place that would show you what that looks like. And, one thing I love about the modeling that we do for clients, it tells you your wealth, it tells you how much tax you'll be paying, it tells you what your cash flow would look like. I think those are the 3 key things that you can use to actually make a good decision. Because if your cash flow puts you in a negative situation, well, do you really want that goal? Because there might be stress in your life, there might be stress in your relationships just because of that cash flow issue, even though you get to the wealth. So all that really helps to help people make an informed and decision that can help them get to where they want to get to.
Yeah, for sure. And I can imagine that there'd be a little apprehension. You sort of mentioned the advice fee as well, but I feel that people need to reframe that fee as more of an investment, because I know that the initial advice fee pales in comparison to the actual benefit down the track over the long term as a result of receiving that advice.
Yes, correct. Exactly. You're paying for someone to sort out your life finances. Like, if you think about that this is your life finances, people pay top dollar for the gym, people pay top dollar for dining out, people pay a lot of money just to go drink, but this thing helps you with all those other things, so you should actually be paying top dollar for it. However, most times advice fee is very affordable, because we can take fees from your superannuation account if you want to. It can be spread over a certain period of time to be paid. So there are lots of levers that you can pull to actually get advice, and this advice would just help you. There's something we call the Hawthorne effect. The Hawthorne effect is you behave differently because someone is watching. So, we've seen clients, all of a sudden they had a bad cash flow, they couldn't invest, or they couldn't put money in super, because they have an advisor where they'll catch up with every year or catch up with regularly. They're now doing all these things because they know once you sit down, it's like, okay, what have we done? Why haven't we done it? You know, and we help you with that as well. So, a huge benefit of advice is the Hawthorne effect, where you have that accountability body.
Yeah, having an advisor is almost like having an accountability partner. You know that somebody's there watching your finances as well, and almost like you're having a documentary crew following you around. Like I can imagine people thinking, "Oh, I better not spend this money. What's Victor going to think?" Sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%, pretty much. So, and I think one thing with advisors, for example, I tell people I love my job,
Yeah.
because I sit down with people, we plan as to how we can help you. You know, being myself, that I'm sequential and driven, it just gives me lots of joy when someone says, "We've bought a house." It's like,
Yeah.
oh, perfect. You know, we've saved enough. We're buying that house. We're retiring happy. We're not worried. They always say I'll just call Victor if there's like all those things. It actually just give me pure joy, and I think lots of people need that, because not everyone is wired that way. You know, I'm wired in a sequential, driven way. I want to get things done. I really want to help people in that aspect, and I think being a bit of a extrovert, trying to understand people and see better ways we can do things helps as well. So you know, and once you have an advisor like that on your side, he's like, well, everything just works better because yes, you're not wired that way, but you've employed someone that is wired that way to help you. You're going to get your goals.
Yeah, I'd imagine there'd be a lot of that. People sending you photos and emails and phone
Yeah,
calls and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
How does that sort of make you feel?
yeah. So truly, it just makes me feel amazing because just seeing someone that we've saved for the last few years to get a house. You know, think about speaking about going back to what we're talking about, the housing issue. Seeing someone get that now is just amazing. You know, seeing someone saying, "Okay, yes, I'm done. I'm retiring." You know, I can then live off my savings is amazing. You know, and those kind of things are the ones that keep me going. You know, it's like, okay, let's help the next person. Let's actually get people into a situation where they can focus on other aspects in their lives and not worry about wealth or money.
There must be a big sense of fulfillment on both accounts for both the client and yourself, because the client in most occasions has had to make some sort of sacrifice,
Yeah.
and then they've had this moment of delayed gratification to say, yes, I've done it. Like,
Yeah. So, for example, I always say I live a rewarding and fulfilling life by helping others live a rewarding and fulfilling life, because um, just helping them go to that and helping and then seeing how that impacts is rewarding for me as well. Look, there are other times where we're helping people through even things like a claim in protection,
yeah,
claim in insurance. Like it's not a good time in their lives, but if they did not have that, protection or insurance in place, it would be worse.
yeah,
So the other day, a client asked me that, how can I talk about life insurance, income protection, being injured, and how do I feel about that? I was like, well, the worst feeling is knowing that I didn't speak to you about it and something happens. So yes, there's sometimes tough conversations, but it's all for the better.
Any scenario, you always want the best outcome. So you've got a plan for that. And I think that's the biggest part of planning is understanding the risks and the potential for risks and mitigating those risks down the track.
Yeah. And that's the thing as well, going back to misinformation. Sometimes people are wired to always look at the benefits without looking at the risk of doing something. And some people are wired to always look at the risks without looking at the benefits. And that's where we come in. We kind of show you both and say, okay, well, if you're doing this, there's that risk. That's too much of a risk to be taken. Let's do this instead. Or it's like, okay, well, you're looking at just the risk. There's also that benefit. And generally with investments, the risk reduces over time. So that's what we want to get people to do, because you're sitting down with a 30-year-old helping them invest and plan for the future. There's less risk of retirement ruin or drop in standard of living at the retirement versus speaking to a 50-year-old. So it's like the earlier you do things, the better. And we can actually help you navigate how to balance all those risks involved.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well done. Victor, really appreciate your time. If people want to find out more about your services, how's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so best way is just go to our website. So on the website, or at the website is cfvservices.com.au. You can go there, see our services. We keep an active blog as well. I'm trying to get active on TikTok. I'm not generally a social media person, but I'm trying to do it. So we are on TikTok, we are on Instagram, and we are on Facebook as well. So those are easy ways to reach us. Yeah.
Awesome. Look, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate your insights and hope to speak to you again soon.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.